Welcome to the Minimalist CEO podcast with Nate Lindquist. Nate created the Minimalist CEO method to help business owners redefine and grow their businesses by finding new demand in places they never thought to look, where there's no competition. By following his opposite thinking strategy, Nate's coaching clients have grown their business up to 40% in just 2 months and created tens of millions of dollars in revenue. Nate himself has launched more than 140 businesses. On the show, Nate interviews successful business owners and experts who share the secrets you can use to have a better business and a better life.
Hey, what's cracking, everyone? Nate Lindquist here with the Minimalist CEO podcast. We've got a great guest today. We like to bring in some heavy hitters, people who've really made their dream come true, worked hard, got past that point of, wow, my business is working, to the point of like, wow, my business is helping tons of people. And we've got a guest just like that today. I want to introduce everyone to our guest. He is the chief at Boston Standard Company. His name is Joe Wood. Joe, welcome to the podcast. And I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. Appreciate it.
You bet. Yeah. In the time we've got to know each other, digging into your background, stalking you a bit online. My team says I should talk to you. Let's get you on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think you used it, tread lightly, carry a big stick. I love that. I think that was Teddy Roosevelt. I love the simplicity, the professionalism, the clarity that you have in our short conversation. It's almost like your special sauce is not being special as much as being consistent and focusing on what matters and stripping away the rest, which we're huge fans of in the Minimalist CEO world. So is that a pretty accurate evaluation of what sets you guys apart?
I think it is. I don't think that our clients are looking for bells and whistles per se. And if someone came in offering that from a plumbing and heating or air conditioning perspective, we'd probably turn them off. So we're just trying to kind of one foot in front of the other, keep it moving and keep people happy.
Yeah. People need our stuff.
Yep.
We can help you with the stuff that you need help with. So real quick, just a snapshot. What business are you in? Someone's like, what do you do?
Yep.
And then a little bit of how you got into it.
I have a plumbing, heating, and air conditioning company. And we've recently added an electrical division as well. But we're doing residential type service usually for
what division? Sorry,
an electrical division. I apologize.
Electrical. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Sure. Which is kind of part and parcel of what we do. And we're doing that for residential homeowners, business owners, things like that, usually for an end user. And the market that we're in isn't, putting up new buildings or renovating apartment complexes. We're normally working for the person who actually has the structure. So a little bit different.
Okay. So you've got a business in the trades. You're in the Boston, Mattapan, Dorchester, around that Boston area. And how long ago did you start this business?
2008, June 2008. So
okay.
I kicked it off there. I'd actually worked for my brother, learned a lot with him and had some other, jobs prior as an apprentice. And, but my father, stepbrothers, my brother, everyone in my family has been in and around the trades their whole life. And so it's kind of a natural extension.
So you worked for other people, but mostly was it working for your family, or did you also have jobs with people who were not family, like other sort of like burgers? What else did you do?
Oh, I worked at a gas station when I was, 14 or something like that. And I worked at a golf course and worked in restaurants for years. So I was used to the hustle and bustle type stuff. The restaurants were the things I liked the most. But entering into the trades, I started off doing new construction work. I worked for a guy who wound up being the inspector in the city of Boston, which is good and bad because I think he remembers me when I was a first-year apprentice. But no, as far as working for a family, I worked for my brother for a period of time. But prior to him, my father has had a business in Dorchester for many, many years. And my stepbrothers worked there. My brother worked there. My half brother worked there. So it's something that was always there. But me being the youngest, I never got in there, which is a good thing because my father was a tough customer for, some people you work with family, it gets better. And some people you work with family, it gets worse. And that's how that was going.
Yeah, I've heard that story before, but you decided to make your own way.
Yeah.
You made the leap. So real quick, if we could just shine a light on the transition point where you're like, listen, I'm going to build something. Obviously, you don't end up with a company like the company that you have. I think it's like sort of the cars, the sleeper cars. It's like, wow, that's just a normal freaking car that went by me at 150 miles an hour. I did not expect that. But it's like there's this, you got an engine in what you're doing. That's really helping a ton of people. Before I even go deeper in this, what size is your company? If you could sort of like
We have around
try
95
that.
people, and we're
Okay.
doing, this year, we're tracking towards 20 million in revenue.
That's fantastic. And so you're making a good living. You're the captain of the ship. You got a lot of plates spinning. How much is on your plate? And, how do you manage all that?
A lot is on the plate, and the management of it is an ongoing challenge. And, a reason why, listen to people like you and try to gain more knowledge every day. But, managing what's on my plate is really trying to delegate it away, being there for the people that receive it and need to handle it, and then stepping in if I need to be the person,
Awesome.
handling something. I think our business, I was talking about people that might put up a whole hotel. They might work at the same place for a year or two or something like that. We're doing kind of a more move. Most of our jobs 5 days and under, many of them 1 to 2 day jobs. That creates kind of a faster pace for our end of the spectrum. And so things are always happening. And, if you've hired someone working in your home, we scrape the floor, we bang the wall, we, put a pipe through a TV or something like that. And so
Right.
what we do is full of fun. There's always something.
You always got something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. You got a decent sized team. You got a lot on your plate. I think there's always that moment. And I love to, illustrate that. I like to see the pattern and hear the pattern. When you had that, like, I got to do it my way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start singing the song. Sometimes I do, but this won't be that time. But when you're like, listen, maybe it wasn't, I can do this better. Maybe it was like, to hell with this, I'm done over here. And then you ended up kind of like in the escape, you found your way. What was the moment when you turned on and were like, listen, I'm making Boston a standard company, or the version that it turned into?
Yeah, it was a weird moment because, at that point I was working for my brother, and I saw that our goals weren't aligned. And I don't mean, I want to retire and he doesn't want me to or something like that. But
Right.
I think that the direction that the person who was at the helm of his company was taking it was not a direction I wanted to go. And, I was thinking, like, can I, right this ship? Can I be his right hand? Or things like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And also dealing, I think, because this is my older brother, because I'm the youngest of all my siblings, there's a bit of that big brother, little brother syndrome going on where, getting through is not always an easy task.
Great idea, Joe. Well, it sounds like something we could talk about. Hey, listen, get back to work.
Yep. So that was kind of the inflection point for me, because I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I'm happy to work for someone else. In fact, I don't need to be the leader. I don't need to be at the helm or something like that. That's not the primary driver for me, because his company was great and going in a good direction, for many years. So I had a great foundation, but I'm looking at it and realizing that where it was going to go from that point wasn't where I wanted to go. And, I just kind of thought about it. I was not yet married, did not yet have kids. I didn't own a home. And I thought, if there's ever a time to take a swing at it, it's now. If I fall on my rear, I still own wrenches and plungers and other stuff like that, and I can go get a job. So it was just the right time.
So you had that fear setting moment. You're like, hey, listen, worst case scenario, there's 2 worst cases. One is never doing it when the time is right, knowing the time has passed.
Yep.
And like, you look at your wife, you look at your kids, you look at your lifestyle and say, like, now's the time, get after it. We're the adversary. And then the other consequence might be just staying where you are, and kind of settling. And maybe the other one might be going after it and totally failing. But you can always fall back on, like, listen, you got some skills. You're never starting over. So I would imagine get over some fear of making that leap. And now you've created this really solid, consistent, you guys, we've looked into it. We did some checking. You guys have got a solid reputation in the marketplace. People can count on you. They can get a reasonable price for a reasonable service. Someone shows up, you get in, you get out. How
did they tell you that's our slogan? The company you count on?
No,
that's what we've been aiming towards. Is all we answer simple, small things. As I said,
speed dial.
Yes,
put us on speed dial. We'll show up.
Yeah.
It's not just the uniform. It sounds like you got some great training in place. So how did you get over the fear of making the leap? Like, obviously there's that, like, fine, to hell with it. Let's just go.
I think the fear, strangely enough, was not so much about would I succeed or fail or something like that. It was really honestly more the family dynamic as a huge component. And it was awkward. But
what's my brother going to think? What's my father going to think? Now, were you competing in the same footprint?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that it was exciting. And, but no, we're all good. I was visiting my brother the other day. My father's passed away, but I mean, it was never an issue anyway. It was just one of those brain damage things where you're like, oh, what's going to happen with this? And it was fine. But that was my big fear because
lingers.
Yeah. Otherwise, I was not otherwise concerned about whether or not I could make it, because if the company remained just myself, plugging along, doing water heaters and, boilers, or it became what it is today, or it becomes what it is, in 5 to 10 more years, I'm okay with all of it,
Yeah. So if during this time, at this process, you've had to overcome some challenges, every business owner does, what would you pinpoint as some of your bigger, if not the biggest challenge of growing a company, up to that, nearly $20 million mark? Obviously, you have goals of going beyond that. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced? Because we got listeners here. So this is some of the challenges. I get messages all the time. We get letters like, I'm trying to, I've got 6 employees. We're trying to keep them busy. There's peaks and flows in the business. Can't get past the $3 million mark. And, so that's a different kind of a challenge. And they're so what's the challenge that you've either dealt with or are dealing with as you continue to strive to grow to get to this next level?
I think you can just throw a dart and you'll hit something, but it's it never ends. But the challenges also that we faced in 2008 aren't the same that I'm facing today. What I mean? Like, we've got other resources and I've got other things that we've learned because, I imagine, in some of the CEOs you interviewed, they might have already worked at certain C-level positions that gave them kind of parallel viewpoints, but I'd only never known what I'd seen to that point. And so I think mentorship was one of the big things that, was a challenge for us in the beginning, because I was only, walking up the mountain I'd already kind of seen and had never been higher than that or to another peak. And so recognizing those things is, one of the first challenges, and then starting to determine what you're going to need to do to hike it and get to the next one. Because at every juncture, you're going to have another one, right? So if you're like a, one-man band and you're going to try to have an office, there will be something you have to figure out there. And then you become something where you're going to go to from 3 million to 5 million. It's going to be more. So those things have never stopped. I think it's just what was a challenge for us then isn't now, but the challenges we face are entirely different. I think about that person you describe it, I'm at 3 million or I've got 6 people or something like that. They're probably still struggling with brand. We checked that box. I think we're doing all right with that. That was from the get-go. We didn't have to redevelop things, but our present challenge now is staffing, as it is for many people in the US.
Yeah. A lot of people, I don't want to say they don't want to work, but there's been a dynamic of,
for sure,
a free money dynamic that's been a little tricky, I think.
I mean, adding into that, the image of tradespeople, generally speaking, a lot of people that wind up in trades, maybe you did it with your grandfather or your parents or something like that. But many people, get sifted through life and, oh man, I can do this with a brush. I guess I'll be a painter. And they're not always drawn to it. Like, oh, I just love the craft. So I don't think our industry attracts enough people. And it's not even my opinion. That's just Department of Labor. More people in our industry are retiring than are entering. So we got all sorts of problems.
Yeah. So if you were to, I think about this, if you were to, looking at the challenges that you're facing, if you were to focus on sort of like one big goal right now that you really want to see happen over the next year, what is that for your company?
I think our next goal is to get a new building, relocate, improve our facility, because we moved into where we're at now 3 years ago. And I said, where are we ever going to, fill all these chairs? And now we're all in bunk beds, basically, working together. So it's, that's going to be one of our big driving goals. I think we'll wrap that inside of the year.
So you're looking for more space. You want to have more people. I do think, in essence, what we've learned interviewing at this point, hundreds and hundreds of successful CEOs at different levels, the pattern that we've noticed is when you're looking to make those breakthroughs, and you talk about you base your growth on the experience that you've had to this point. But I also think there's a factor of reaching beyond your own experience of mentors. And what I've noticed is there's 2 sides of that. First, there's what I've learned from, again, hearing this, and it's great to hear, I learned from these interviews too,
Sure.
is there's the team factor. like hiring people that know more about certain things than you do.
Absolutely.
Like put this person, let them be great at what they do, let them go. So we heard that a lot. The other piece is reach out to someone who's already proven this, either in another industry or in your industry in another area, and say, can we compare notes on this? We're crashing into this, but it looks like you figured it out. So have you done any of that?
Yeah, that's been one of the keys to our success, is being able to have other people around, because, and I feel boastful saying is, I don't like to, sound this way, but, as I know a lot of plumbers and other people that had businesses, but as we began to kind of accelerate ahead of them, so to speak, I couldn't ask them for the same advice about what the road ahead looked like. So we definitely had to deal with that. And we have it's called a mixed group. It's just a group of businesses, around 12 of them around the country, that all varying shapes and sizes, and,
like a mastermind.
Yeah, basically, but they're all HVAC plumbing type companies.
Okay.
That's awesome. It's something, some of the guys in there, and, anyone who's successful, I think, has to have something like this. They, some of them had worked for franchises. Some of them have done, huge construction. Some people are exactly like we are, far behind us. So we meet twice annually, barring last year. And you meet offsite at people's businesses. You get to kind of open book with them, and you want to ride around with their sales manager, or you want to see anything in there, it's completely open. That has been one of the biggest things that has helped us. And then joining a best practice group, we're in a group called Service Nation Alliance. And there's, KPIs we track that, there was a point in time where the KPI was, is there money in the bank, right? And the KPI is not that anymore, thankfully. But, so yeah, we've definitely leaned into that quite a bit.
Did you find yourself kind of hitting that glass ceiling when, I think about the thresholds? I want to survive. So I need some stability. Stability shows up in the, $200,000 to $500,000 area. Then, okay, I want to get to $1 million. Yep. It's like, my profit's going down, but when's it going to come back? And so I think people move through those stages of conflict, survival to stability to success to that significance where I'm making a meaningful contribution.
Yep.
We're getting consistent. We've got that certainty that we're going to be helping more people. Would you say you're in success right now, at least at the level that you're operating?
Yeah, I would. And the reason is I find ourselves kind of becoming, more magnetic towards applicants. And I talked about staffing being an issue, and it is, and I know it is for everyone in every industry, but we're doing better than we ever have with that. We have attracted, you talked about kind of getting good people and just letting them rip. We've attracted some of those sorts of people. And those are people, I think, when I started the company, I couldn't, one of my first employees was, strangely, my mother. And that's a big weight on my shoulder to think about hiring her and all that sort of stuff. Fast forwarding to the person I'm referring to, we couldn't have even considered hiring that person, 10 years ago. That just wasn't in the cards. So yeah, I think we are successful. I don't want to hurt my elbow patting my back, but it's something that, I'm pleased with what we've built, and I love the road ahead, because I think we've got a very long runway. Like that. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're having the success. Obviously you're offering a great service to your community, and not an entirely unchallenging market. I mean, you've got all levels and society classes, all the way up to wealthy communities. You've got, challenged communities. You've got the middle class communities. You've got lots and lots of variety of businesses, Boston and the boroughs, and figuring out what your mix is, how far you want to go, how deep you want to go with the services. And it seems like you guys have really figured that out. So I would love, if one thing I teach my clients in Minimalist CEO, is part of this, don't ask how, ask who. So instead of saying, how am I going to do this? How do I know where I should operate? How far should we go? That's huge, overwhelming waiting. That's what I tell people, like that. I think what's made it fun, what I do is, helping a client who's now passing the $40 million mark has happened because it's like, let's go find someone who's got some of those pieces in place. Let's tap into underserved needs, really get hungry to find problems. And let's put someone else's expertise on the part where it's not working. The who can help out these are great acronyms. The WHO, who can help out, is the getting really good at letting go of the things that you haven't mastered. so that someone else can master it. And I would wonder, so what are some of the things you've handed off that just, they're not your juice, they're not your gifts, you don't feel as called to participate in that?
I have a lot of those too. It's funny. I saw a guy speak years ago at a trade event, and he just is a CEO who bought into an HVAC company, and he knows nothing about fixing things. And I think a lot of people in the trades are real prideful, and they're like, boo this man. But I think the reality is that guy from the get-go did everything he needed to do to get that knowledge from other places. And so here I am kind of trudging up from the toolbox, and I had to shed all of that stuff. It's something that, I can't go visit more homes and fix more problems to grow this business. So I've had to discard a lot of things that I may have once been quite prideful on too, and understanding the things that I'm not good at. And it just keeps getting, pared down further and further to a point where, I'm not a great process leader. I have ideas. I have, things I bring to the table. But as far as, putting that through a process that makes the entire company run and follow, I think that's not my strong suit. My wife, who is on board, she's got a real analytical brain and organizational mindset. She helps with that, and so I've been kind of offloading more and more through the years. And I imagine in the next 5 years, it'll pare down further.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with.
So I've got good news for you that if I look at some of the companies that I've interviewed who are doing, and you can hear them in the podcast,
yep.
There's more coming that are doing 100, 150, 200 million, upwards of $1 billion. We've got a couple of people we'll be interviewing that are running companies, multiple companies that are in the 8 figures or 9 or 10 figures. It's like crazy. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Wow. It's with 10 figures. Can you imagine? I'm looking at the year. It's like, wow, that's a lot of commas. But when you get into that level, here's what I'm finding is the most successful ones are just massive humility.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about team members and what their team members have figured out.
Yep.
There's almost no ego or willingness to take credit for anything. It's like this, almost like you start as a kid, you go through the process, you get back to being this joyful kid again in this feeling of curiosity that unfolds because, I talk to these people and they're like, they become a coach for the stuff that actually matters. And if they talk about their expertise, it's with a passion about something that they've chosen to master. Yeah. It's usually like one thing.
Yeah.
And it's then the question I usually run into is, how did you let go of the things that aren't your thing? One of the things we teach our clients in our programs and in my education group, with the Minimalist CEO is how to identify and share your gifts. And we have a set of criteria that we take people through to ask the questions. Is this your gift? Is this your calling? Does this wake up the power that the 90-pound woman had to lift the car off her kid? Like if you're like, give me your best shot. I think everybody, I know when people let go of the rest, everyone has that superhuman ability in one area if they just make room for it. Yep. So do you think you know what that is for you if you were to strip it away?
It would take a whole weekend seminar to figure that one out, but it's something that,
I'm in. I would love to dig in because I believe it wouldn't take a weekend. I think it would really actually take you a couple hours. Yeah. I think you'd be blown away because obviously you're gifted at stuff. Yeah. It's,
I think, 5 tool players away. Like I've never, been more technical than everyone else. I'm not, some excellent salesperson or whatever. And what I've, you're talking about the example of someone being up against the wall at, say 3 million or something. And they're like, I know, I got to get over that thing. This is what I need to do it. I just think I've always known that we weren't at potential. We're still not at potential. And so I've been trying to source out the answers to find out what the next step looks like. And that's, I don't think ever going to, I wonder about it, but I'm like, if it ever does stop, it's that, it's kind of an evolve or die sort of thing, right? I think, especially in today's market, what consumers are expecting and, I want it now, daddy. It's like, I want to
Yeah. I want the world. I want the whole world. Yeah.
You did bring in a song. I like it.
There it is. It was bound to happen one of these days. I like that. I like your answer. I'd be curious then, getting to the point that you're at, you had to strip some things away. You had a before and after experience of some sort. Let's find a version. Maybe once you got past the $5 million mark, where you're like, I always thought it had to be this. I feel like there's where things start to get easier. you get a rhythm. You're like, when you're not there, you know, things are getting done. You have a sense of certainty that things are going to be okay. Give us a sort of that epiphany moment for you, that before and after, because I think the listeners of the podcast would really benefit. You know, you've got a company up heading into the $20 million range, and you've got staying power. Mm-hmm. What's it before and after that could shine a light on like that?
It may not be applicable to all people and all things, because, you know, I started off with driving a Sprinter with my elbow and writing down information while I'm driving around, and Bluetooth in, taking the phone call, answering like we're a full office when it was just me. That couldn't last long. I mean, it 6 months until I, was able to bring my mother on, which was a huge boon to us. That was a big thing. Like letting go of answering the phone was one small one. Later down the road, then I'm one of the guys doing all the installs and service work, and being the leader. That had to end at a point, which was getting out of a service vehicle. And again, that like pride hit, or, I can do it better than anyone else sort of thing. That's a huge limiting belief that I think, many people in our industry or similar industries struggle with.
Any industry.
Thinking that, no one's going to do it as well as you. But then other ones, as far as growth, do I commit to an office? Do I commit to this? And I'd say, if you're not doing it, then what the hell are you doing? Because like, if you started it just to be driving around with your elbow, that's not a good move. You know what I mean? Like, you're not running a company, you're running a job. So we got a lot of those. At this stage, even though I love talking to customers and, I have a lot of customers that know me personally, I can't answer the phone any longer. And I haven't now for probably 4 years. I don't directly answer any phone calls that are inbound, because it just harangues your time sometimes and I can't get anything done. And most recently in the last year, I've stepped back from any direct contact with technicians and, my field team, which is a kind of painful thing to do, because it almost feels like I'm trying to put a wall up on them. But I'm ineffective if I spend my time doing that, because I either need to find someone to do everything that I'm doing now, which would be great, but my duties lie elsewhere. So I've continually had a lot of that stuff going on, and more to come.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed, tell me if maybe that kind of what you're saying is, when you create space between the notes, mm-hmm. that's what makes the music. We've heard that.
Yep.
It's like that, and the definition of insanity has been popping up for the last 6 to 10 years. Like somehow that's a new thing. But I think when you make space, it's like all the things you tried to cram in when you were crammed didn't leave room for the next level of things that really could be getting attention.
And so I know where I'm still doing that, and it's like just a growth thing where you have to continue to push through those little barriers. And sometimes they're just a piece of wax paper, but they're still hanging over me right now. There's something I'm doing that is stopping me from moving to the next level. And, but I try to stay aware of it. That's the kicker for me, is where we are is not where we're supposed to be. And, with a bit of luck, we'll continually improve.
Do you love the journey?
Yeah, it's cool. It's neat. It's
an adventure. You feel like, hey, listen, I'm after this. Like, someone knocks you down. What does your gut do? Someone knocks you down. Does it like, oh geez, I'm going to dwell on this? Or do you like, give me your best shot? What happens? Onwards
and upwards. I think the knockdown for us is something that we dropped the ball on. And at that point in our industry, it's already spilled milk. I don't run from trouble. If it's something that, we're a part of a result that isn't where it should have been, let's just get it going correctly now. And that's my attitude, because I think I have sometimes my team or my customers, and they think where we've arrived is the end. I'm like, oh, it's just a passageway. And here we go from now. This is going to get us forward. So I don't really get down much as far as that goes. I try to keep the emotions even keeled. And, if we had some, great week or a low week, I don't alter my weekend plans based upon that. You know what I mean? It's just keep moving.
Yeah. Stay steady. Inner candle flame never flickers, right?
I hadn't heard that, but I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I learned that from Wayne Dyer. I think he quoted someone else, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Highly recommend some of his work. But the Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling is a great book from him. Spiritual Solution.
Are those two different ones?
Yep. Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling. Well, there's Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling. That particular statement, actually, there's several. The inner candle flame never flickers. There's lots of, if you do Google the quote, I mean, there's it's like you picture that inner candle flame, and then you got this external reality creation system, which is your senses. And then there's the pause button, which is like, well, if I create the reality, how? And it's, well, you hit the pause button and you decide, am I going to be triggered? Am I going to decide the meaning of whatever information, data, stimulus has come in? And what am I going to do with it? And I think that people, maybe the biggest penalty for reactionary living and being so busy is the feeling of being so rushed. You no longer control, you don't have your finger over the pause button. You no longer control the meaning. So external things, this extrinsic control over your reality really takes those moments of life away on the journey.
Nice.
So awesome. I love this. It's been a great interview. Joe, I think what will be great is if you could just tell everyone what are the 3 roles, if you had to pick 3 primary places to focus in your role at running a $20 million company. If you had to pick 3, put your focus on these 3 things. Because what I found is in that sort of $15 to $30 million range, there's kind of like 3 areas that get your attention. The rest is like, listen, I've let that go. I've got someone who kills that. There's the letting go, I think, can be pre-framed with a team as, if you don't hear from me a lot, it's because I'm trusting you to hit the numbers. We're going to review them together. We're going to measure at this time, but I trust you and we're going to train you. And if you get stuck, ask. So what are the 3 roles that you play that are this is your focus? Because I think the listeners could benefit from that.
Yeah, I think I've thought about this a lot because my position is in constant flux, and that's a good thing. I think the drivers that I, think should motivate me going forward, sales, keeping that sales mindset throughout the company, networking, which, the last year and change has been a little bit off, but that's normally been something that I've been kind of really big into.
So visibility of the brand out in the market.
Yeah. Yep. Trying to get ourselves out there with, the people who make the decisions and put ourselves in places, whether it be through charity events and things like that, just getting out there. I think the last thing that I want, because our business, saying we added the electrical component, but the entrepreneurial part of it, there's a lot of other kind of bolt-ons that I think that we should be doing and can do. And, once I clear a couple more trees, that's the intention, is to put up a couple new foundations, because, I've seen a lot of other people around the country and world that have done that. And, adding electrical was nice. I think there's a few other key services I'd like to bring into our portfolio. So getting some more free time to get kind of the entrepreneurial stuff moving again.
So you talk about another focus would be product development, service development.
Yep.
So, one thing I'd love to ask you then, which I'm going to, because it's my podcast and I can ask if I want. The idea, you do it. See, and now you're right. Look at all the people who are right today. I think that the idea of what if you didn't have to be, and I love this question because this is sort of my core. What if you were no longer in the plumbing, electrical, air conditioning business? What if you could take that label off and be the idea that homes and buildings are monitored, maintained, cared for, and all the stuff that happens is less important than that the problems don't come up? And what if you could define a niche for yourself in the space of we track it, we prevent, we repair, we upgrade, but we're no longer competing with plumbing companies, HVAC companies, air conditioning, electrical services, or whatever the other foundations are. That's fascinating to me, because I think you've gotten to the point now where you can I think if you have a good enough core in sort of before, during, and after the relationship, there's an opportunity to become something singular that no one else can do.
I think, you make me think of a concierge type service that there are people that use and offer similar services like that kind of become your own private project manager. It's not probably for every customer out there, but a certain clientele. We've thought about and talked about things like that as well, because what you were also referencing about the monitoring side, you start to see, Moen puts out a product to detect water leaks. Honeywell's got something, and Nest has got, bolt-on accessories like the cameras. And I still think where we're at right now is, the if this, then that stuff. If you're familiar with that at all, the protocols for if a temperature is sensed, can it shut off the water? And different things like that.
So we have some clients who I've helped advise into building out water prevention systems, but they're in the restoration space and water mitigation or mold mitigation. So the idea is when that red light or green light circumstance happens, there's still we could call it an upsell or a maintenance interaction that is potentially revenue generating, but it's also rapport building, relationship strengthening, safety creating, reduction in liability. And as I think any business that starts to tap into new demand, there's concierge for everything. But I had someone call me the other day and say, he's moving into the ADU space, accessible dwelling units and accessory dwelling units. And he said, well, it's very new in my area. What if people don't want it? I said, yeah, but what if what they're looking for points to that, which is seniors nearby and family being cared for, more moments, not having that sense of the adventure is ending or the countdown, but they're going to be in your yard. You can increase the value of the home in the process. Plus there's this richness of family that's being created. And then one of the options is ADU. It just so happens that's the only stuff that you do, but you're bringing a message to a level and a type and a nature of an underserved problem that you're raising awareness. Like finally somebody said it. And I feel like you guys are heading in that direction where let's just face it, blue collar trades, the hardworking, taking care of America that's happening in the space that you're in. It's not a conversation. People don't generally have they're not tuning into the capacity of what could this be that isn't the label that's on it. But I feel like you guys are getting close to that and could really, you're in a market where you could really nail that. And that could be just a huge, I think your company could potentially be 4 to 6 times more valuable today, almost instantaneously by getting out of the competition traffic jam. What do you think about that?
You mirror something I heard from a trainer a while back. He's like, like football plays with the X's and O's. He's like, everyone's running up the middle and boom, 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 and doing the same things. And he's like, drop back and pass over the center and kind of changing the whole script, or zig when they zag. And I heard somewhere else. I like that term. I think, what we are today, I don't think is what we will be in the future. And I think, I was talking about the kind of home automation side of things, but all of those bolt-on things, they're real and they're available. The question of maturity as far as when they develop into what they're going to be and which one will be the right one, I'm still I'm a little pulled back, waiting for it to develop and mature a bit more. But I think we couldn't have ever considered doing one of these concepts years ago. We definitely could in the next future, and I'm all for ideas like that.
Maybe it's time to be the innovator at another level where you're the ones who are developing the monitoring. Even if simply your way of monitoring is not the way that's suggested or offered, but it's in such a way where people are contacting you for prevention. People are doing prevention. They're not buying air conditioning. They're not buying plumbing. They're buying peace of mind. They're buying, comfort. And, a lot of people put it in their brochures, comfort and family and all. But if you actually do it, and you help people buy less from you, I think more people will buy more from you.
I agree. And, put yourself in a position where you're a resource when they need you. And that's, I've always focused on, is trying to be a resource, whether it's to my team, to my customers, to our community. And I think the more you place yourself it's like SEO or something. It's like, get yourself to the center of the web and everything kind of hopefully comes to you. I've never worried about whether or not the things that we do produce an immediate dollar or something like that, because I feel you keep providing value to people and they're going to keep using you.
No, I think that's spot on, Joe. This has been a great interview. I think that what I love most about it is you're forward thinking. You're obviously growing, but you're growing in a way where it's simple, it's professional, it's consistent. Your special sauce is that you're not trying to confuse people with special sauce. It's like, you've got that sense of responsibility of really aligning when people need you. So I think that last chance, I'm going to borrow this from Tim Ferriss. I love doing this because I'm a super fan of what Tim Ferriss's work. And I like the idea of, you got a billboard. Let's just do the billboard for the business owners right now, I think, who are working their tails off, missing family events. They're missing time with their kids. They're out there and they're doing the work, trying to make the difference and help the community build their businesses, make money, make profit, constantly stressed. They have the same turmoil and chaos, just like we do at times. But you have a chance to put a message on the billboard from the view that you see for the person who's on 3 stepping stones behind to get across that river. They can't see the other side of the Nile, but you have a better view of the next stepping stone. What would you put on that billboard?
On the billboard, you only get like 6 seconds till someone drives by a billboard, right? Isn't that
it's the 35 mile an hour rule. Yeah, they're going to be.
I think I would keep it moving, because I think that, reference you had about people behind and people ahead, every single person out there needs someone to lead them, and everyone else needs someone to follow. And, it's something that you have to identify those people and keep moving in that direction. Sometimes I thought we were miles and miles away from a goal, and then you turn around and look and you're like, oh, we're almost there. You know what I mean? Like we're just about to bang into it. So I think in business, sometimes the challenges you face, bog you down and make you second guess yourself. I'd say keep moving. That's what I put on the billboard, because people will say, what's that for? And call us, hopefully.
I think that's very much in alignment with what I tell a lot of people. Act and draft. Be willing to, I love the keep moving. That's simple. Don't try to get it perfect, get it going. So the testing ground of your head's like a pinball machine. The ball is going to keep bouncing around and looping, but you get it out in the world will give you feedback that lets you know what to change. I promise you.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thanks for the interview, man. I really appreciate the time.
Me as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone, thanks for joining us for the Minimalist CEO podcast for this time with Joe Wood. Boston Standard company. He started it. He's put together some great systems, obviously been able to let go, get the company to a whole new level. And he shared some great insight. The last one being keep moving. So I'm going to challenge you to do just that. Act and draft, subscribe to the podcast, share it with someone else. The best way to grow is to give. And by sharing a message, Joe's taken his time. We create this podcast. It's not a profit center for us. It's a way to give back. We've had great blessings. God's been good to us. And we want to help shine a light just a little further down the path than maybe you've gone. Or maybe this is an opportunity where you say, listen, I think I could really help on this podcast too. Maybe you're further along than where Joe and I are today, and you have something that you'd like to share that's essential. But it's all about stripping away the waste, eliminating the junk food marketing, and making a difference by really getting hungry to identify problems and solve them. That's what business is all about. So again, I'm Nate Lindquist with the Minimalist CEO podcast. And I'm glad that you're here. Check us out. Connect with us on Facebook at The Minimalist CEO, and email any questions or thoughts to help@theminimalistceo.com. And we'll be back with you soon in the next episode.